I'll unmute you, sir.
You're right. Okay, let's bow our head for a word of prayer. Our loving Father in heaven, we thank you, Father, for this great opportunity that you have given us, in spite of all the lockdown that has happened, that we are able to meet up with our members in our SDA church. And you have given us this privilege, Father, that we can come together and to hear your message in terms of financial crisis during the COVID-19, where Pastor George is going to deliver um, some important points and lessons for us to learn. And I do pray, Father, that you'll anoint his lips and bless him with knowledge and wisdom, that he's able to share this important message, and from his experience that we can also learn a lot. We thank you, Father. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Thanks, Elder Anthony. I request Pastor George John to take this time and give us a wonderful presentation. And if you have any question on the middle of the presentation, you can inbox the question to Pastor George John. So you can inbox to him, or you can wait until end of the session and you can ask the question to him. Now the time to Pastor George John. Yeah.
Thank you, Pastor Stanley. Like to welcome all of you for this session. I'm sure some of the things that I'm going to share you will know, and we can learn together. The topic given to me by Pastor Stanley was on personal finance, COVID-19 and personal finance. How to manage your personal finance during the COVID-19 crisis. Now, I'm looking at two different things. One is we'll start off with the COVID-19 crisis. And then from there, we'll go on to look at how we can manage our finances, not only at this critical time, but the rest of our life. If we learn to manage our finances, we will be better off in life. COVID-19 crisis, just to let you know the background, 17 November 2019, COVID-19 started in China. On 13 January 2020, it crossed the borders of China, and the first country outside China to have this crisis was Thailand. It was brought into Thailand by tourists from China. That was about 2 months after it showing up in China. So for 2 months, it was restricted to China. But after that, it began to spread all over the world. A week later, 21st January, the first case of COVID-19 was in United States. A week later, the first case of COVID-19 came to Malaysia. Now, this article tells us 8 Chinese nationals were quarantined at a hotel in Johor Bahru on 24th January after coming into contact with an infected person in neighboring Singapore. So it came in from Singapore. Now, 3 of them were confirmed to be infected on 25th January and subsequently quarantined at the Sungai Buloh Hospital in Selangor. Now, that was the beginning of COVID-19 cases in Malaysia, 25 January 2020. Now, about 5 months has gone by, maybe less, right? January, February, March, April, May, 4 months has gone by. And it has a devastating effect all over the world. Right now, 214 countries around the world have COVID-19 cases. That is most of the countries around the world. CNN says the global death passes 300,000. And this chart tells us the top 5 countries with the highest cases of COVID-19. United States has the highest, 1.4 million. Russia, 260,000. UK 236,000, Spain 230,000, Italy 223,000, a total of 2.4 million cases of COVID-19 in just these 5 countries. Now, what about COVID-19 around the world? As of yesterday, there was 4.5 million cases of COVID-19 around the world. And 54% of all these cases are found in these 5 countries, Europe and in US. Now, what about the death? The highest death rate in US, 87,000. And throughout the world, we have 306,000 cases. 60% of the death rate is in these 5 countries. Now, as I mentioned, it started in the United States. It came to the United States in January and many parts of Europe in January. And within 4 short months, it has caused a dramatic problems all over the world. We are living in uncertain times. Do you all agree with that? We are living in uncertain times. And when we look around, we know that we are living in uncertain times. The reason is we see everything has come to a standstill. What does the Bible say about this? Let's look at Matthew chapter 24, verse 3. Now, as he sat on the Mount of Olives, talking about Jesus, the disciples came to him privately saying, "Tell us, when will these things be? And what will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age?" They came to Jesus and they were asking him, when will Christ come back? Jesus gave them many signs of his coming in Matthew chapter 24. Now, verse 7 tells us, "For nations will rise against nation, kingdom against kingdom. There will be famine, pestilences, and earthquakes in various places." Now, what are pestilences? A word not used frequently today. I checked the meaning of pestilence in the Webster's dictionary, and it tells us pestilences mentioned in the Bible is a contagious, infectious epidemic disease that is virulent and devastating. It is contagious. It is epidemic, which means that it is all over the world. It's found all over the world. It is virulent, which means that it's marked by a rapid, severe, and destructive cause. And we see this in the COVID-19. All this definition or meaning of pestilence, we can relate this to COVID-19. Now, those of us, I believe most of us are less than 70 years old, and every one of us can testify that we have never seen such devastating effect of one disease around the world. Indeed, it is a pestilence. We are living in uncertain times. The destructive nature of COVID-19 pestilence, it is worldwide. Is it worldwide? Yes, it is found in 214 countries around the world, most of the countries in the world. 2, it moves rapidly. Did COVID-19 move rapidly? Yes. The first case outside of China was in the month of January. And in 4 short months, 214 countries experienced the effect of COVID-19. 3, when you talk of pestilence, it brings great destruction. Did COVID-19 bring great destruction? Yes. More than 300 people have died around the world. More than 4 million people have been infected by COVID-19. 4, it causes great losses. Okay, we look at jobs. Never before seen in the last 17 years. CNN tells us, this is an article on the 15th of May, it tells us more than 30 million people lost jobs in the last 2 to 3 months. That is a lot of people losing their jobs. 870,000 jobs were lost in the month of March alone. Just in 1 month in the United States, 870,000 people lost their job. China, 80 million people lost their jobs in China. What about Malaysia? Free Malaysia Today online newspaper tells us that over 600,000 people are jobless in Malaysia. That was in the month of March, I believe. And it will get worse as the days go by. Is it a pestilence? Yes, it is. Not only was there losses in jobs, it caused great losses in income. Now, this is just one example. I got this from the Star on the 6th of April. Now, this tells us about the effect this had on the hotel industry. Now, here it says the normal occupancy rate, you take hotels in Malaysia, all over the world, the normal occupancy rate, that means number of rooms rented out, is 65%. But in March in Malaysia, if you look at this, the occupancy rate was only 22,000. And in April, it went down to 22%. In April, 16%. Now, what about the losses? In Malaysia, in March, the losses sustained by the hotel industry is $596 million lost in just 1 month, the month of March. In April, $930 million or ringgit was lost. In May, 435 million. And in the month of June, 537 million. This is a projection into the future. So when you look at 4 months, what you see is more than $2.5 trillion was lost just in the hotel industry. Never seen in Malaysia over the last 70 years. Indeed, COVID-19 is a pestilence, something that has brought great destruction to Malaysia. Now, what about the people? That was talking about the business. What about the people? Now, this is an article in the Sun Daily, 8 May. They talked to a pawnbroker, and this is what he said. People came knocking even before we reopened for business. That was what he said. Now, this pawnbroker, his name is Tan Chai Siong, 50 years old. He told the Sun, they were literally begging us to open so they could exchange their valuables for cash. Now, we know when people desperately need money, what do? They bring their jewelry, they go to the pawn shop and pawn their jewelry. Now, people needed money so badly. During the lockdown, they were not able to go out. And even when they go out, the shops were all closed. So they were desperate. But when the government says some of the business can open, pawnbrokers start opening up and people were queuing up because they desperately needed money. Now, one of the person, a lady who read this article, this is what she tweeted. She said, people queuing up in front of pawn shops are real. Because there were some newspaper articles that say, no, this is not real. This is just maybe 1 or 2 cases and all that. So she told about her experience. People queuing up in front of pawn shops are real. I just sent a mother and a son to Kajang, to the pawn shop for this, and the queue was very long. She went on to say, longer than queuing at Tesco for groceries, she tweeted. It was a very sad moment in Malaysia where we find so many people having problems. Now, we go back to what Jesus said, the signs of his coming. Now, as he sat on the Mount of Olives, the disciples came to him privately, saying, "Tell us, when will these things be? What will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age?" Jesus is talking to all of us. His coming is near. For nations will rise against nation, kingdoms against kingdom, and there will be famines, pestilences, and earthquakes in various places. There are many other signs. Go back and read Matthew chapter 24. But for today's study, we can say with confidence that this pestilence that Jesus was talking about is COVID-19. A contagious disease? Yes, it is. Infectious? Is it an epidemic? Yes, all over the world. Is virulent? Yes. It passed on from country to country very rapidly, very severe, and the effect is devastating. Jesus says in Matthew chapter 24, verse 8, all these are the beginning of sorrows. It's time for us to wake up, to realize that Jesus is coming soon, and we need to prepare for the coming of Jesus. So the first one part of this message that Pastor Stanley asked me to talk about is how to manage your financial crisis during the COVID-19 crisis. So I believe I've shared with you something, also a brief on the COVID-19 crisis. Now we are in this crisis and we need to carefully manage our finances. Now, the first advice that I would like to give to you in this crisis or any crisis that you have is to hold on to your job. Hold on to your job until you find another job. Now, this is very, very important for us. And not only for us, we have to tell people, because during this time, it is not easy to hold on to our job. There'll be so many reasons why we want to change the job, why we want to resign from our job. The advice is when you are in a crisis, when you don't have enough money to take care of you for at least 6 months until you get the next job, hold on to your job. Even if your pay is reduced by 50%. Is it possible? Yes. Talk to your friends. Look within your families, your relatives, and you will hear many stories. Some of them have lost their job. Some companies have closed. Some of them are still working, but the boss comes around and says, "Mr. Lee, we are facing difficult times now. I'm willing to have you as one of my staff, but I'm going to reduce your income by 50%. You are earning 5,000 a month, but from now onwards, until things change, I can only pay you 2,500 a month." Is that possible? Yes. Any one of us can face that situation. So if your boss comes to you and say, "I'm going to reduce your pay by 50%, what would you do? The advice is hold on to your job. When I was talking or sharing this with the pastors a few days ago, one of the pastors asked me the question, how long must I hold on before I give up the job? I gave them the illustration of rice. Now, if the father and mother are working, husband and wife, you have 2 plates of rice. 2 people are working. But if one loses a job, then you only have 1 plate of rice. That is 50% reduction. Now, what would you do? Do you have a choice? No. You have to learn to live within what you have during the crisis. 1 plate of rice is better than 2 plates of rice. If some of you here is the only sole breadwinner, you go to work, your wife stays home and takes care of the children, and your boss comes and say, I'm going to reduce your pay by 50%. What would you do? My advice is, it's better to have half a plate of rice than no rice. Hold on to your job. Hold on to your job even if your boss makes work hell for you. I've heard a number of cases where they held on, they are holding on now, but because the boss is so frustrated because he also faces financial problems, he makes life so difficult for the workers. What would you do? Do you have a choice? You don't have a choice. You need to hold on to your job. No matter how difficult it is, hold on to your job. We can't afford to have two plates with no rice in it. We need the money to go through this crisis. Hold on to your job even if your workmates make life hell for you. You have a wonderful boss, but your colleagues are giving you a terrible time. What do? Hold on to your job. Don't resign until you find a job where you can replace the present income that you are earning. Why? Why am I saying this? The first reason is people have lost jobs. Remember earlier, China 80 million, US 30 million, Malaysia 600,000. And people are continuing to lose their jobs every day in Malaysia. Is it going to get better? Yes, in a long term, but it is not for the next few months. It is going to get worse before it gets better. So the advice is, hold on to your job. Now, another reason why I'm advising you to hold on to your job is no job means what? No money. What will you do? We all need money. So we need to hold on to your job. So I hope that this advice sink into each one of us. No matter how difficult, we need to hold on to a job. This is the first thing we need to do as we face this crisis. And not only now, in future, when you face a crisis, you have to pay your car bills, your house bills, your personal loan. Hold on to your job until you find a replacement job that gives you the income you need. Another reason why we need to hold on to a job is this coronavirus is not going to disappear. It is here and it will continue to be here for quite some time. As I was watching the news here in Australia, one of the ministers said that it will take until the end of 2013 for us to return to where we were before the coronavirus hit the world. It's not going to disappear. I read this article in the Malaysian newspapers, 15 January, this was yesterday. Nur Hisam, I think everybody knows about him. He is the Director General of the Ministry of Health in Malaysia. We see him on TV every day, giving a report. Now, he said that probably this will be a 5-year struggle. Is it short term? No, it's not short term. We need to know, those of you who are here, we need to know and we need to tell our loved ones, our church members, our colleagues, our relatives, our friends, we need to tell them that it is not going to disappear. It will be with us for some time. And the very first advice that we need to take is, no matter how difficult it gets, hold on to your job. You need the money. We need the money. Now, the second lesson that we need to learn is to learn to spend less than you earn. Now, this is not too troubling when times are good. Now, they say when the times are good, the bank gives us an umbrella. But when it starts raining, the bank takes the umbrella away from us. Sometimes this is true. Not because they want to do it, but because they have to protect the money that has been deposited in the bank. Right now, during this time, and in the next few years, it'll be very, very difficult to get a job. And when you go out to borrow money, it will be very difficult. Banks will be extra careful in giving out loans. Not only banks, even if you go to a money lender, I know of cases where money lenders also are very, very careful who they give their money to, especially during a time of crisis. So we have to learn to spend less than we earn. Now, the book Adventist Home, page 374, tells us many, very many have so educated themselves that they can keep their expenditures within the limit of their income. What it means, we have to learn how to spend less than we earn. But many people have not learned. Money comes in end of the month, we spend the money, end of next month, the money comes in and goes on and on and on. We see money coming in month after month, year after month, year after year, and we take it for granted that the money will always be there. And we have not seriously taken time to educate ourselves on financial knowledge. We have not learned to spend less than we earn. But this is a time where God is telling us we need to wake up. We need to be careful with the money that we earn. We need to spend less than we earn. It goes on to say, they borrow and borrow again and again and become overwhelmed in debt. And consequently, they become discouraged and disheartened. Now, when you go to church, you see some members are always smiling. Some of them are so burdened. It could be possible when you talk to them, they have so many debts, so many bills to pay end of each month. And it burdens them. It burdens us when we have so many debts. We have to learn to spend less than we earn. Don't buy things that you do not need. Now, how much do you earn? Do you know how much you earn? I think most of us know because we get our pay slip every month. How much do we spend? Now, that's a more difficult question. The reason is every month we get our pay slip, we know how much we earn, but throughout the month we start spending the money, and by the end of the month, the money is gone, and next month we get another paycheck. So we don't really keep track of how much we spend. Now, given an example, income and expense statement for the month, I think every one of us should have this. If, let's say, your income is 2,000 and you spend the 2,000, end of the month, how much money do you have? Zero. You don't have any money. You spend everything, but you don't worry because you get the paycheck on the next month or the next few days. So end of the month, you are broke. All the money is gone, but there's no worry because the money is coming in a few days' time. Now, there are even such thing as broke billionaires. They can be very rich. When I was doing business in Malaysia, I know very, very rich people. They own many houses, many beautiful cars, but they are broke. They lived on borrowed money. They live on debt. It is a wrong road to travel because one day it will dry up and you will be in a serious crisis. Now let's look at another statement of another person. Let's say you earn 2,000 a month. Your expenses is 2,200. So end of the month, how much money do you have? It's not zero, it's $200 in debt because you spent $200 more than your income. Now, this is a terrible situation. I hope that every one of you who are watching or who is watching this will know that we should never get into this situation. Now, some of us are, and we need to change the way we live, the way we manage our money. Learn to spend less than you earn. Now, when you do this, spending more than you earn, you get into debt. debt. You owe people, and as the days go by, as the month goes by, it becomes a greater and greater burden on your back. Your moods change. You start quarreling with your wife, with your children, with your friends. Life is terrible. So the second important lesson is learn to spend less than you earn. Now, this is another statement. Income is 2,000, expense is 1,800. So every month, this man has a saving of 200. This is wonderful to start off with because he has learned to spend less than he earns. He has some extra earnings every month and he puts it aside to help him when there is a crisis. Now, every one of us should learn to come to this situation. The advice that we have is always this. You need to have at least 6 months of your pay in a separate bank account and leave it there and don't touch it because that is what we call an emergency account. Suddenly you lose your job and you don't have a job for the next 6 months. No problem, because you have this emergency account, a separate bank account. Every month you take your 200 and put it into the account and it begins to build up until you have 6 months of pay. In this case, this guy has 2,000 income, which means 6 months will be 12,000. Build it up until 12,000. Then leave the money there. You don't have to continue to put money in there. Just leave it there until a time when there is a crisis. You can go there and draw the money. And for 6 months, if you don't have a job, you don't have to worry because you have saved and set money aside for 6 months. Now, this is something every one of us have to learn. The question I would like to ask you today is, do you have an emergency account where you can draw from in a financial crisis? I know many of us will say, no, I don't have one. I never even heard about it. Some of us say, yes, I have one, but I keep drawing money out of this account. We need to change our attitude. We need to keep that account full or filled to the top. Each one of us, the amount that we are going to put into the account will be different. If I'm earning 1,000 ringgit a month, how much do I need? $6,000 in the account. If I'm earning 10,000 in income a month, how much do I need to save for the 6 months? I need to save 10 times 6, $60,000 in that separate bank account. Learn to spend less than you earn. And the first saving that you make, start off by having an emergency account, a separate bank account that you don't touch, and fill it up. That is the first advice that I would like to give you. Now, during this crisis, you may not be able to do it. Well, as times go by and your financial situation improves, then start. The first thing you need to do is to set an emergency account for times of crisis. And in times of crisis, will it come? Yes, it will come. You'll get worse than what it is today. And in that time of crisis, when everyone is crying, everyone is struggling, everyone is going to the along to get a loan, you don't have to. You can smile because you have money in the emergency account. The most important lesson you can learn in financial management is this. The most important lesson is probably to spend less than you earn. Today, if now you leave and you have to go, you're going out because you have something important to do, this one lesson will help you the rest of your life. It will avoid a lot of pain for you, for your family, and for your children. So remember, 1, hold on to your job. 2, learn to spend less than you earn. There are three kinds of people. 1, who always spend more than they earn. This is the first people I'm talking about, the first type of people. Always spending more their expenses are always more than their income. Some of you can identify with this. Now, this is a terrible situation. You need to get out of this. If you do not know how to do it, you can talk to me and I may be able to help you. The situation which is not too bad, not too good is the second one. Living paycheck to paycheck. Your income is 2,000, your expenses is also 2,000. It's ideal in a good times, but you must remember, a time will come in every person's life where there will be a financial crisis, where you will lose your job. If you are a businessman, your business may go bankrupt. At that time, it may be too late for you to start saving. The third is the best situation every one of you can be in. Your income is more than your expenses. This is wonderful. So the first thing is start saving in an emergency account. Learn to spend less than you earn. The story I told you earlier, earning 2,000, spending 1,008. With the $200, he puts it in this emergency account and he starts building up. And then after he has the 12,000, he continue to continue to save the rest of his life, because the money can be used to build wealth, to become rich. Now, how do you spend less than you earn? There are 3 steps that you need to take, that you need to know. The first step is start a budget. Now, we live from month to month. We don't really keep record of how much we spend. Now, this is not a good financial management tactic or lesson. Every one of us, especially when we are not financially well off, we don't have $1 million in our saving account, then we need to have a budget. The main goal of budgeting is about tracking, okay? About tracking your expenses and income to make sure your income is more than your expenses. That is the whole purpose of a budget. You know how much you earn, you know how much you spend, so you keep track of it. So you know if you overspend, you know, and you know what to do. Now, I can take 1 to 2 hours to teach you how to start a budget. We don't have time now because I only have 1.5 hours. But if you need help, do let me know. I may be able to help you to create a budget and start a budget. That is the beginning of your journey towards financial freedom. Second, reduce your expenses. Cutting your expenses is one of the quickest way to help you get out of your financial problem. Some people are refuse to reduce their expenses, but that is the quickest and one of the important ways to get out of your financial problem. Are you having financial problems during this COVID-19 crisis? If you are, then you have to learn to reduce your expenses. You may say, well, I don't have a problem. Wonderful. But is some of your church members having problem with their money? Then teach them, help them to reduce their expenses. And the third thing is increase your income. Now, there's so much money that we can reduce. Some of it is a must. We have to pay our utility bill. We have to pay for our children's education, for their tuition. We need to put petrol in our cars. We need to buy food, provisions. Some things cannot be reduced, but there are things that can be reduced. So there's only so much you can do to reduce your expenses, but you have to learn to increase your income. There are many, many ways to increase your income. You can learn of the different ways to increase your income. So look at it. Ask people, find out how you can increase your income, because this will help you all throughout your life. 4, learn to save. This is another thing that we have difficulty with, because people find it difficult to save. Whatever they get, they spend. Now, how they call this pay yourself first. If a person learns to pay himself first, he will be a good saver. But most of the time, when you look back into your life, you always pay yourself last. And that is why you have so little money, extra money in your bank account. Because whatever comes, you spend. You have to learn this lesson. Pay yourself first. Now, what does it mean when I say pay yourself first? Now, usually what happens is end of the month, you get your salary. In the story I told you, 2,000 ringgit. First, what he does is he pays his loans. You have to pay your car loan, your housing loan, your personal loan, whatever it is, you pay your loans. Then you have to pay your bills, your electricity bill, that is outstanding, your water bill, indoor water, whatever it is, you pay your bills. And then you spend the money, buying grocery, sending your children to the babysitter. There are many, many things we need to spend money on. And then end of the month, if there is any money left, then we say I'll save or invest this money. But sad to say, most of the time, it does not happen. When we start at the beginning of the month, you may have hopes, yes, I'm going to save this month. But when you come to the end of the month, most of the time, you have used up all your money and maybe more than you earn. This is not the way to go. If you want to spend less than you earn, you have to learn to pay yourself first. So what is pay yourself first? Look at the one behind at the bottom here. You start off with a salary every month, and you tell yourself, I'm going to save 10% of my salary. So the story earlier, I told you this person earns 2,000 a month. How much is 10% of $2,000 or ringgit? 10% is 200 ringgit. So what you do is when you get your salary, after you have paid your tithes and offering, when you get your salary, the first thing you need to do is take that $200 and put into a separate saving account that will accumulate. It will be an emergency account. And once you reach your 12,000, 2 times 6 is 12,000, you open another bank account where you continue to save 200 a month, and that will be your investment money. That is the second best thing you can do with your life as far as financial management is concerned. Every month, when you get your salary, after your obligation to God, tithes and offerings, you look at your salary. If it's 2,000, what do? If you say you want to save 10%, it's $200. If you say you want to save 20%, then how much is that? 2,000 times 20% is 400 ringgit. So every time you get a salary, the first thing you do is, after your obligation to God, your tithes and your offering, the first thing you do is you put in the 200 in your emergency account. Once you reach 12,000, leave it alone. Open a second bank account and you start putting 200 in the second account to let it accumulate so that in future you can use that money. It will come in very, very handy for you in future. After that, you pay your bills, you pay whatever loans you have, and then you spend last. Because this is also a must. Whatever you have balanced, then only you spend on some of the other things that you need to spend. One day when I was holding a seminar, someone came to me and asked me, they say, George, if I come to the end of the month, I'm earning 2,000. If I come to the end of the month and I don't have money to pay my electricity bill, it's 100 ringgit. I don't have money to pay. Or I only have 100 ringgit. After saving the money, I don't have any money. I've used up everything. What do I do? Do you borrow? No. Just postpone that payment to the next month. All right. Don't be tempted because you have not paid your electricity bill. Don't be tempted to go back into your emergency saving account to take that money out. Never touch that emergency saving account unless it is a crisis. Never go into your investment account to take out the money because that is only for investment. If you can't pay this month, you can pay your electricity bill next month. That is what you need to do. The priority is always when you get your salary, first God, second is yourself, your saving and your investment account, and then all the rest will follow. Now, this concept is what we call pay yourself first. Now, if we do that, we start learning and start doing it. If not now, in the months to come, you start doing that, you'll have a very good financial situation, and you will be able to withstand any financial crisis in the future. This is what we need to do. When we do this, we'll become financially free one day. Now, how do you pay yourself first? Three things, maybe more. Three things. First, create an account that is separate from other accounts. This account is used only for saving. That's what I talked to you earlier. Second, as soon as you receive your pay, transfer the pledge percentage of your pay into the account. In our example earlier, 200 ringgit. Step 2, again, this must be done before making any payments. Step 3, leave the money in the account to accumulate. You can only use the money to create your emergency account and your investment account. Step 4, once you have transferred the money into the saving account, you can make payments for all your expenses. Now, if you understand and follow this, you will know what to do and it will help you. In summary, this is what it's all about. Disposable income is your net income. In our example, is 2,000 ringgit. Minus your saving and investment, this is 10%, which is 200. So you only have 1,800. Then from there, you have your spending money. 2,000 is not your spending money. Your net income, 2,000, is not your spending money. You have to pay God, you have to pay yourself, and whatever is left behind is your spending money. Can you do this? I believe every one of us can. We can discipline ourselves. And if we do this, I can tell you for sure, you will have a better life as far as finances are concerned. Number 5, cut back on your expenses. This is something most people would not like to do it, especially during this crisis. If I ask you to cut back on your expenses, you'll think twice, but it is not pleasant, but necessary. This time in a crisis, don't try your very, very best. Don't ever go and borrow money from a money lender. Some money lenders, they charge you 18%. But 99% of money lenders will charge you 10% a month. That is 120% a year. Don't do it. It is not pleasant to cut on your expenses, but it is better to cut on your expenses during the next few months than to borrow money. Now, if your crisis is very, very bad and you need some money, there are ways to face this problem. I may not have time to explain to you everything because of the shortness of time, but you can contact me, WhatsApp me, and I may be able to give you some advice on what you can do. There are many ways to face the crisis. When you have financial problem, there are many things you can do to help you in a financial crisis. One thing you need to find out at this time, whatever expenses you have, is it a necessity? You must spend money during this crisis, or is it an unnecessary expense? When you look at your few months before this crisis, we just earn and spend. It's a combination of things you need and a combination of things that you don't need. But in a crisis, you really have to do this. Look at your expenses. Write out a list of all your expenses and divide them into 2. Things that you must spend on and things that you don't have to spend on for the next few months. Example, how you can cut your expenses. Groceries is here, number 1. It is a must. Transport is a must. You need petrol in your car. Insurance is a must. Don't cancel your insurance. This is the time when you really, really need the insurance. Many people are stressed. They get sick. they need a medical card, they need to continue to pay, they need to continue with the other insurance that they have. Rent or mortgage is a necessity. I've talked to quite a number of my members, the Myanmar refugees, and I've talked to them and I told them, you may not be able to pay the rent, talk to your bosses. Some of them have approached their bosses and their bosses have been very, very nice to them. They say, okay, the next 2 months, you don't have to pay the rent. Some of them say, well, you pay what you have now, and then in the next few months, you pay an addition to your rent. I'll give you an example. Now, let's say in simple calculation, the rent is 1,000 ringgit. And someone says, the landlord comes and say, you pay me what you have. So he said, I pay you 400, I have 600. So he pays the landlord 400, the rent is 1,000. He pays the landlord 400, he still owes the landlord 600. So he'll tell the landlord, okay, what I will do is the 600 I divide into 6 payments. Every month, I'll pay you 100 ringgit for the next 6 months. Now, that will help him to continue to stay in the house. Now, many landlords have a heart. Some will always say, I want to throw you out, but most of the time they won't throw you out. The reason is the house will remain empty for the next 2-3 months because nobody wants to move house at this difficult time. And if someone wants to move and come into the house, chances are they've been thrown out from another house, they don't have money, and they'll come to stay in your house if you are a landlord. So rent, you can negotiate with your landlord. Childcare, if you and your husband and wife, you both of you are working and your wife has lost a job, or your wife is working and you have lost your job, you don't have to send your child to childcare. You can take care of the child. You save some money there. Utilities, you have to pay. But if you don't pay utilities for the next 3 months, you talk to Tenaga, most of the time they say, no problem, you pay later because they understand the situation. Loan payments, some of the loan payments can be paid in the future. Just like housing loan, they say for the next 6 months, you don't have to pay. But my advice is, someone asked me, if you can pay your loan, continue to pay your loan. Don't take the offer from the bank because the bank gains and you lose. Now, in the Australian newspaper, in an article recently, I was reading an article, it says that they calculated on the average loan of 500,000, they have found out that if you don't pay for the next 6 months, you're going to accumulate an additional interest of something like $14,000 to $20,000. In Malaysia, they'll add on the interest you have not paid for the next 6 months to your loan, which means your loan amount will go up. And instead of ending in, let's say, 10 years' time, it may be extended to 12 or even 15 years. So when you really calculate, it's not advisable to take the offer given by banks. 6 months, you don't have to pay. But if you have to, then go ahead if it's a necessity. Phone and internet services, you need to pay. So what are the unnecessary things which you can stop now? Entertainment subscription. You're a member of a golf club. You're a member of a gym. You can cancel the membership. You're a member of a club, no? A family club. You can cancel or stop paying that subscription for the next few months until your finances improves. Restaurant dining. If you really can't afford and you have been going out to eat in restaurants, mama shop or big restaurants, this is a time where you can tell yourself, I'm not going out. Excuse me. I'm going to stay home and eat at home, at the home. So restaurant dining out, you can cancel it completely the next few months until your financial situation improves. So these are things that are unnecessary during a crisis. Shopping, you don't have to buy new clothes now. You don't have to buy a new car. You don't have to buy new shoes. Whatever you have, live with it for the next 6 months to a year until your finances improve. So shopping, you don't have to go shopping unless for groceries. Hobbies, well, you can put this aside. Gym membership, you can put this aside. So these are just some examples of unnecessary expenses. Now, I've taught this to you today. If some of your church members are not there or not here studying with us, go and share with your church members. We need to love one another. We need to care for one another in the family of God, in church. So visit your members, call your members, find out their financial situation, because you have learned some important things. Talk to them and help them with their financial crisis, because now you have some knowledge about how to handle your financial crisis during this COVID-19 crisis. So don't just keep to yourself, share with others. And as you share with others, you'll learn, you will remember, and you will practice it. So it is good for you to go and share this important message with people that you know. It is short term. You must always remember it is short term. So bite the bullet and do it. All right. What I'm talking about short term is cutting down on the unnecessary expenses. I'm not talking about COVID-19. It may go on for the next 2-3 years, but unnecessary expenses, you can completely cut it out. And you should cut it out until your financial crisis is over and you can balance your income with your expenses. What does it mean? Our example, you earn $2,000 and you spend $2,000. Then you say, I can go back to some of the things I used to do, like going out to eat with my friends. But until then, bite the bullet and cut on your expenses. Delayed gratification avoids long-term pain. What does the term delayed gratification means? This is what it means. We can live from day to day. Whatever we earn, we spend. All that we earn, we spend. If our pay from 2,000 goes to 5,000, we spend all our 5,000. When our pay from 5,000 goes to 10,000, we spend all the 10,000 a month. Okay? That is not delayed gratification. You're just spending because you want to gratify yourself. You want to satisfy the desires you have within you. We need to practice delayed gratification. What it means is this. Remember, create, the very first thing I want you to do is create an emergency account. 2,000, 10%, $200, put it aside in a separate account. That is delayed gratification. Once you have 12,000 in the account, stop and continue to put $200 in another account, which is called an investment account. You delay your gratification. And when you look back at your life 10 years from now, you'll be far ahead of many of your colleagues, many of your church members, many of your family and relatives, because you delay your gratification and you put money aside. That will help you one day to buy your first home. You have not bought your first home, and then go on to buy a second home, which will help you when you retire one day. That time you'll be shaking your legs and you'll be enjoying yourself, going out to serve God because you delayed your gratification. For those who cannot delay their gratification, they live from month to month, they reach a retirement age, and they are in a terrible mess. They have to depend on their children for money. They have to depend on the government for money, and they have to live a terrible life because they enjoy life so much, living luxurious life. At that time, they don't have money. Now is a time for you to learn about money management. Now is a time to apply many of these principles in your life. Number 6, credit card is very, very, very damaging, especially in a crisis. If you use a credit card, strictly follow the rules that you need to know about credit card. This is very important advice for all, especially young people, because young people are influenced by their friends and they want to live the lifestyle that their friends live. So I'd like to give you some rules which has been very, very helpful to people who came to me with credit card problems and how I help them through their problems. But they have to follow these rules. If not, they can never get out of this problem. Now, you must always remember that this credit card is a trap set by the devil. Now, I remember when I was young, we used to set traps because in our house that we live in, a wooden house, we had lots of rats and all that. So at night, we'll put a trap, and early morning when we go in, we'll see a rat caught in the trap. It's a trap. This is a trap. Credit card is a trap. And you need to know the rules and follow the rules. If you have not been following some of the rules I'm going to share with you after this, do it. Start doing it, because it will help you get out of your crisis in the next few months or years. All of us have this problem, impulsive buying. And the credit card is created by businesses to take money out of your pocket and put money into their pocket. It is a real blessing to businesses, but it is a curse, and it causes so much suffering for us because we buy things that we don't need. Now you go shopping, you go walk into a shop and you see a beautiful dress. You look at your purse, you don't have any money. Do you have to worry about it? No. All you have to go is get the dress, wave your credit card. Now you don't even have to swipe, you don't even have to sign, you just wave your credit card and then you have the dress. You say, oh, it's okay, when I get my pay, I'll pay end of the month. But when it comes to end of the month, you have some other expenses, you say, okay, I'll pay next month and next month. And before you need it, before you know, you have already reached the maximum loan the bank has given you on your credit card. Do you stop there? I know people, probably about 20, 30 years ago, where the bank was so friendly, he had about more than 15 credit cards. He uses one credit card and then he takes another credit card to pay the minimum for the first credit card. And then he goes to a third credit card, he takes the money and he uses that to pay for his first and second credit card. What a life to live. Now it is not possible because the government has, Bank Negara has a record of all your expenses, all the credit cards you have, all the loans you have, and they will not give you that many credit cards. In fact, the Bank Negara has only put a stop to this. But right now, we still can have credit cards. I remember my daughter, when she just finished college, she received a letter in the bank, and the bank says, you can have a credit card now. She was not working, but they're already willing to give her a credit card, because they want you all to start early. Impulsive buying will destroy your spiritual or your financial health and your spiritual health. Okay, so what are the rules for the use of the credit card? Do not get a credit card. That is the first rule. The easiest is, if you don't have a credit card, you will not have a credit card problem. As simple as that. No credit card problem. Then why do we get a credit card? Now, if you ask me, I have a credit card. The reason why I have a credit card is, when I travel from Australia to Malaysia, I go online to buy a ticket. And I sometimes try to buy using my debit card. And the tag the bank has to give for me to get approval, I request for a tag, but here in Australia, I don't receive the tag. So I cannot buy, I'm stuck. So I used to have this credit card, which I still have. And if I really cannot use my debit card for some reason, then I use my credit card. Okay, so I do have one. So if you do just have one, but nowadays it is not really a problem. If you do just have one, but when you have one, what do you do? Like in my case, every month I have an instruction with the bank. My credit card is with M-Bank. I went to M-Bank. I have a saving account with M-Bank. I went to M-Bank and told them, do a standing instruction. What does it mean? You tell the bank every month on the 27th of the month, you draw whatever I owe the credit card from my saving account and pay off 100%. So when I have this standing instruction with M-Bank, every month on the 27th, they draw the money, whatever I owe the credit card, and pay off in full. So every month, new month, I start with zero. Does the loan I have, the bill I have to pay for the credit card increase? No. Every month it clears. So if you just have one credit card and you need a credit card, my advice is go to the bank, apply for a standing instruction. It is free, and then pay off whatever loan you accumulate for that month. If you do, just have one. That's the second advice I would like to give you. Number 3, do not carry it with you when you go shopping. You say, George, I mean, if I don't bring it, why should I go shopping? I mean, why do I need a credit card? Remember, credit card is for emergency only. It is not for shopping, because shopping involves a lot of impulsive buying. Now, if you go to a shop and suddenly you forgot that to bring money, doesn't matter. You can go to the ATM and use your debit card to take out the money. You don't need a credit card. But if you didn't bring your purse, everything is in your purse, and you didn't bring a purse, what do? You can go back the next day to buy that particular dress. You don't have to worry. They always will have it. So do not carry it with you when you go shopping. Why? Because credit card is only for emergency. Number 4, only use it when business does not accept cash. Very rarely, but online businesses don't accept cash. You need to use your debit card or your credit card. Number 5, pay your monthly bill in time, just like what I do with the standing instruction. If you're unable to do it, cancel your credit card. If you have a problem with credit card and you start accumulating and you cannot pay the end of every month, my advice is cancel your credit card. Because you start with 1, you're going to go to 2. You start with 10,000 credit, the bank gives you, you'll go up to 30,000 credit. And you will never pay for the next 5-10 years. And you're paying a very, very high interest. Do you know housing loan interest is only about 4 to 5%, which is very reasonable. And it's coming down because interest rates are coming down. But if you take a personal loan, then the interest rate goes from 4 to 5% to 6 to 7%. You're paying more interest now because it's a personal loan. But if you use a credit card, the credit card interest is 18% a year. It's not 4 to 5, it is not 6 to 7, but it is 18% a year. That is a lot of money. And that's why they always tell you, pay the minimum. I believe it's 50 ringgit now. I do not know. They may have increased it, but pay the minimum. And if it's so good, oh, I don't have to worry. I just pay 50 ringgit. The rest I can pay when I have the money. You will never have the money. The banks get richer and richer, and you get poorer and poorer. Don't get trapped using credit card. Okay? If you use a credit card, strictly follow the rules. Is it easy? For some of us who are so used to using the credit card, going into debts, it'll be very difficult. But starting today, because this is a time of crisis, God is teaching us many lessons which we have not learned. Today, God is trying to teach us and prepare us so that 5 years from now, 3 years from now, if there's a bigger crisis than COVID-19, we'll be able to face the crisis because we have learned how to manage our money. We have learned the important rules in financial management. We apply it, and at that time, when everyone is crying, everyone is having a difficult time, we have come through it. I'll stop here. I've got a few more things to share, but now it's going to be 5:20. I think your time is 3:20. And there may be some questions we like to take before we close at 5:30, 3:30 your time. Pastor Stanley?
Yes, Pastor. If anyone have any question, you can you can raise your hands. I can unmute your audio. Any question? I think don't have, Pastor. Everyone is clear. Okay, there is one. Michael Ma.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So you can ask your question. Yes,
Michael Maran.
Michael Maran.
Pastor Elizabeth
Yeah.
Seger.
Okay.
Pastor,
Wow, I thought I changed your name to Michael.
no, Michael changed it. He changed it.
Your son.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
Elizabeth.
Michael, clear it later. Okay, done. Pastor, praise God. Last year you taught us about this program. We follow. We cut out all the expenses. Thank you, Pastor. And now, how to settle housing loan fast, Pastor? Housing loan.
Okay. How to settle your housing loan fast?
Yeah.
Now, every housing loan is different. So we need to look at the housing loan. There is a program, some companies do this, where if you have taken a housing loan, say for 20 years, and they come to you and say, we can help you to cut down your housing loan by 7 years. That's a lot of money. So instead of 20 years, you can settle the thing 10 to 13 years, you can settle your housing loan fast. That is fast. I believe that's what you mean. No?
Okay.
You can do that. There is a program, but they have to look at your housing loan, when you took the loan, what your interest rate is. Now, I've also talked to people and helped them to reduce their housing loan, the amount that they have to pay. And there are people who can reduce up to 40,000 or more if they understand these principles and apply the principles. Now, a few things you need to do. One is you may have to refinance. Most of the time, they'll tell you to refinance your housing loan. Because when you went to a bank, let's say you went to Maybank to take the loan, and at that time you're paying a housing loan of 6%. You did not think about it, you got the loan, you are very happy. And you did not realize that if you reduce your housing loan to 5.5%, if you got it from another banker, 5.5%, end of the 20 years, you could have saved 30,000.
Oh.
But you didn't think about it. But there are also banks that may be even willing to reduce the loan from 6% to 5%. So if you can talk to a banker and the banker say, I can refinance your loan. They look at everything and say, okay, right now your loan is 5%. I can reduce it to 4%. And when you talk to them, you find out, yes. And if they can, you can save up to 50,000, 40,000 by the end of the term. And that's a lot of money. No?
Yes.
So one way is to look for a bank that has a lower interest rate on the housing loan. Okay, that is one way to do it. Another way to do it is some banks have this special program where you can pay more than your monthly payment, which means that if your monthly payment for a housing loan is 1,000 and you pay every month 1,000, this is a fixed payment. Now, they have packages where you can pay more than 1,000. So if every month, instead of paying 1,000, you pay 1,300. What happens is by the time you end the housing loan, you can save up to $40,000 or $50,000 also, because you're paying extra every month, and that helps to reduce the number of years. No? So that is another way, but again, you need to understand what kind of a loan it is. You need to understand the interest rate and all that. There are some professionals who do this. And here in Australia, many people do this, help you to reduce your housing loan. In Malaysia, I've talked to some agents, they do that too, real estate agents. They can advise you on this. So when I come down to Malaysia, you can talk to me. Right now, I'm in lockdown. I can't leave the country. Nobody can leave. Not even the Prime Minister can leave the country. No, so I'm not above the Prime Minister. So we have to be here until they open the doors. And Malaysia also don't want me. They say, don't come until everything's, so I can't come there also. So when I do come down, then we can discuss about this, how
Thank you,
to reduce your housing loan. Yes.
Thank you very
Definitely
much.
there is a way to do it.
Thank you, Pastor.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Okay. Elder Anthony? Okay.
Hi, Pastor.
Hi, Anthony.
Hi, Pastor.
Wow, you look more handsome, brother.
They say I just wanted to find out, Pastor. There may be
Yes.
members, there may be members, maybe our church or maybe in other churches as well, who may
Yes.
scenario where they have lost their jobs.
Okay.
Okay, that is one.
Yes.
The other scenario, maybe some of them may be running some small time businesses, but the income.
Ye-
But so during this time, how do they actually look? Because they can't find a job, and
Yes.
statistics in Malaysia shows probably for the next 6 months until 2021, you may not be able to find a job that easily.
Yes. Mhm.
What is your advice for people who are going through this situation where employers have probably slashed, even if they slash their salary by 50%, that
Yes.
they're not able to cater for whatever that they have? I mean, maybe the
All right.
bills, the rental, all those things you see. Maybe
Yes.
they have bought a house, not able.
Mm.
Any tips that you might want to give? Probably.
Yes. 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 There is an answer to most questions.
Okay.
And we need to sit down and look at it. How do we tackle this problem? Now, it will be from a case by case basis, because some people, the problems may be very big. Some people, the problems may be small. Some people may take longer time to come out of it. Some of them can come out of it in the next 3-4 months because they are in demand. So they can get a job easily. So you need to talk to each person on a case by case basis and then find out what can be done. For example, if your income is 5,000, your wife earns 2,005 and you earn 2,005, you are still have a job and she loses a job, 2005, then there is a deficit of 2005. What do you do? That is the main concern. Because at the end of the day, our main concern now is to have enough money to survive for the next at least 3 to 6 months. So we have to sit down and look at their problem on a case by case basis. We have to come up with a budget. For example, I sit down with you, all right? And your wife, I say, okay, this is your income, 5,000 ringgit. She lost 2,005, so now your income has dropped from 5,000 to 2,005, 50% reduction. Okay, that's the case. So you need the extra 2,005. But do you really need the 2,005? Maybe not. Why? Remember earlier I said there is necessities and there are things not necessary at this time. So when I sit down with you and go through all your income, all your expenses, I'll look at it and say, okay, Anthony, okay, these things are not necessary. So you can take it out for this next few months. So you remove the things out. So instead of 2,005, 500 ringgit is taken out. So now it reduces from 2,005 to only 2,000. So that is one thing I look at. The second thing I look at is the loans, because some of us have loans and all that. Now, sometimes it's not drastic. You talk to the bank say, okay, 6 months you don't have to pay. So if I have to pay 1,005 every month and I don't pay for the next 6 months, now out of 2,000 minus 1,005, I only have to worry about 500 for the next 6 months. Right? So the other 500, I look at it and again, I try to reduce from the budget. So quite a number of times you can balance your budget by cutting down on the unnecessary things. Now, next, if it still doesn't balance, then you move on from the unnecessary things to the necessary things. For example, groceries and all that, you have been spending maybe $3,000 or $1,000 on your groceries. You may be able to cut down to about 800. But in time of crisis, what else can we do? So because of that situation, you say, okay, I'm in this situation. I don't mind. If I have to starve, I have to starve. My children come first. Asians. Our children come first, and after that, our wife, and then we come last. Right, Jacinta? Yeah. Or the husband comes first, and then the wife. But we try to cut down on some unnecessary things, so you may be able to balance. But let's say after doing all this, still you cannot balance. What do you do next? All right. Then next thing is we look at our assets and maybe we have to sell some of the assets. For example, if we have 2 cars and our car is worth 20,000, and I know if I go and sell to someone now, I may only get 15,000. I'm going to lose 5,000. Nobody should sell at this time. But if you really have no choice, you sell one of your cars, 20,000, you sell off, and you only get 15,000. And that 15,000 is for the next 6 months is enough to take care of your needs. But that is a drastic message we have, something we have to do. So when people have a crisis, usually when I go and sit down and talk to them, financial crisis, not COVID, but in the past, there are people who really lost their job and all that. Not divorce, a husband left, and their wife has so much problems. So when I sit down and talk to them, I go through step by step and go through. First thing is create a budget, go through the budget, remove the unnecessary things, maybe cut down on the necessary things, and maybe if there's some assets, then take out the assets. No, so when you go through the process, it takes sometimes 2-3 days. By the time you go through a process, you already have a roadmap on how to get out of this crisis for at least for the next 6 months until you find a job. No? Remember earlier I say the advice is always to have an emergency. If you're earning 10,000, your emergency account is 10 times 6 months, 60,000. If you have built up your emergency account and you don't touch it, you don't have to worry about it. But many of us have not. So now is the time to, knowing that there is a problem, start very basic things, start with your emergency account. Build up your emergency account. If it's 10,000 you're earning, it has to be 60,000. If you're earning 20,000, you have to have 120,000 in the account. If you're earning 2,000, you only need 12,000. That is the first thing that all of us need to do as far as financial management is concerned. So there is a way out. Someone had to sit down and talk to you. And if any of you have a problem, real problem, you talk to me on a one-to-one basis. All right, you can get it from Pastor Stanley, my contact, and I can sit down and try to help you during this crisis. If you really have a crisis and you need help, I can provide you some financial advice. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, most welcome.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Pastor.
Yes.
I think it's going to be at 3:30. We're going to end the meeting now. I request Pastor Patrick Andrew.
Before that, Pastor, just
yes,
explain
Pastor,
to them why we need to end now, why we can't go on.
Oh, sorry. We got another meeting, health meeting, organized by Penang Indian Church. 3:30, they are going to start the meeting. So some of the members are going to join in that meeting. So we are going to end the meeting. Right. If Pastor George John's okay, we can do this meeting even next week. We're in different topic. I will talk with Pastor and see his availability, and I'll let you know.
All right. Thank you very much for being here and for listening. Okay. I hope it has been a blessing to you.
Thank you, Pastor.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for everyone who joined with us in this meeting. I request Pastor Patrick Andrew to offer a closing prayer.
Let's bow our heads for prayer. Our Father in heaven, I thank you for this time of reconsidering our priorities. We thank you, Lord, that you're always with us, and on this past Sabbath hours, you're close to us and teaching us some practical things that we need to inculcate, incorporate, and practice in our lives. We know that there are times of challenges around us, but you have protected us, Lord. We the apple of your eye. You've taken care of us wonderfully, and all good things come from you. But there are challenges that some of our members might be facing, or some of our friends might be facing. And we thank you for Pastor George's experience as well as his knowledge on this in sharing. May we do whatever we need to do for your honor and glory. And we thank you for Pastor Stanley to coordinate these meetings, Lord. We know this is just a beginning, but you ask us to be good stewards of whatever you have provided for us. And today we have talked about finances, and help us remember that you have given us bountifully, and we thank you for it. We thank you for those of us who are here, especially I pray for those who might be having challenges, Father, that somehow as the opportunity has been opened up for consultation and for counseling, and I pray that we'll use this opportunity to continue to learn and also see your leadings in our life as we claim the promise of Proverbs chapter 3, trust in the Lord with all our heart and not to lean our own understanding. In all our ways to acknowledge you, and you will direct our path. We thank you for loving us, and we thank you for the Sabbath hours. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thanks a lot, Pastor George John, for the wonderful presentation, Pastor. And thanks, Pastor Andrew, Patrick Andrew, and also Pastor Daniel joined with us today. Thanks to all the members. God bless you.
God bless you.
God bless you.
Thank you.